Hello viewers, welcome to another exciting edition of your program, Corruption Must Go. I am your host, Hawasani Garba. Academic certificates from various levels of education in Nigeria have always been one of the key criteria for employment in government or private organizations in the country, just like in the rest of the world. The high premium placed on academic and professional certificates is not misplaced because they tell of the suitability or competence of the holder about the job on offer. As such, it is a given among Nigerians to always strive for the best academic and professional qualifications to be in good positions to make the best employment available in a highly competitive job market. While a majority of people have gone through the full cycles of schooling and professional training to obtain certificates for better job opportunities, a trend of worrying dimension has crept into society with the prevalence of bearers of fake academic credentials. Today on the program, we shall take a look at the rate of fake credentials, which is fast becoming a norm in the public service, and what ICPC is doing to check this ugly trend. But first, let us join Ruth Awodi as she brings us anti-corruption stories.
Welcome to this segment on Anti-Corruption Stories. I am Ruth Awodi. The chairman of ICPC, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu SAN, has called on all Nigerians from different sectors to adopt preventive measures in order to win the fight against corruption. Dr. Aliyu made this call when the American Business Council, ABC, paid a courtesy visit to him at the ICPC headquarters recently. The ICPC chairman, who was represented by the secretary to the commission, Mr. Clifford Okudiri Okparaodu, stressed the importance of adopting preventive methods in fighting corruption while highlighting the prevention aspect of the commission's mandate.
Our mandate is clearly stated in the Enabling Act. And of course, the area that we all are so much concerned is the preventive aspect. You know, as a fact that in the commission, that aspect of preventing corrupt practices has always been upmost in our mind. Of course, we have our PE&E, that is the Public Enlightenment Division of the organization, which have been doing a lot of work to educate people. In fact, since we came on board, I can tell you that we have had over 10 lectures, visit by students, both the tertiary, primary, and secondary school, here and in their various schools. There have been several clubs and organizations which the P&E department have been mentoring, and at least we have been passing the message and making our people understand the danger of corruption. I know it's difficult to wipe away in totality, but at least to reduce it to the barest minimum.
Earlier in her remarks, the CEO Executive Secretary of ABC, Mrs. Margaret Olele, who led the delegation, said the visit was aimed to propose potential partnership in a project called the Private Sector Development for Democracy Forum, PSDDF. Speaking further on the objectives of the forum, Dr. Joe Abba, Country Director, Development Activities International, DAI, and Steering Committee Member, PSDDF, said the forum had its focus on questions revolving around the level of corruption, lack of accountability, and the decline of trust in governance.
As is always the case with development, the government alone cannot do everything. Particularly as when you talk about corruption, as ICPC will know better than anybody else, it's really difficult to perpetrate corruption without the private sector. You know, most procurements are done by the private sector. Most contracts, the days of government doing direct delivery of projects has long passed. And so we felt that it was important to bring together a platform known as the Private Sector Development for Democracy Forum, which has private sector organizations, civil society organizations, think tanks, people in the academia, media partners who have a commitment to strengthening democracy and accountability in Nigeria. Because as Winston Churchill once said, democracy is the worst form of government except for every other one that has been tried. And so while there are issues and challenges, it is still the form of government that gives human beings the most freedom to innovate, the most freedom to live a fulfilled life.
Also speaking during the visit, Mrs. Lola Adekoya, Country Director, Center for International Private Enterprise, CIPE, expressed the belief that ICPC's partnership would help change the structure and the norms that enable corruption.
Because the idea behind PSDF is really a very collaborative one, and that's why we're reaching out to ICPC. And we've tried to distill the areas where we see that ICPC's mandate and vision aligns strongly with those priority areas that Dr. Abba talked about. And there are 3 of them. However, if you find that the 4th one also aligns with ICPC's mandate and initiatives that you're running, we'll be very happy to involve you in the process of developing the National Agenda for Democracy Strengthening that Dr. Abba talked about, which tentatively will be launched in May of this year when we celebrate 25 years of uninterrupted democracy, which I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back a little bit more for than we do, to be honest, right?
In his response, Secretary to the Commission said ICPC is ready and willing to partner with ABC to reduce corruption to the barest minimum and boost economic development. From our Imo State office, ICPC has advised students and staff of Army Day Secondary School, Obinze, Imo State, to desist from examination malpractices, sexual harassment, cultism, and giving gratification for marks, as these were some of the corrupt practices currently militating against students' academic progress in schools. Assistant Commissioner ICPC Imo State Office, Mrs. Chinwe Egbocha, gave this charge recently during the sensitization and inauguration of the Commission's School Anti-Corruption Club at the school. Mrs. Egbocha warned the students to desist from paying for grades in any form and avoid skipping classes, which would be detrimental to their future in the long run. The principals of the senior and junior sections of the institution, Mrs. Petrolina Ogu and Mrs. Chigoziri Echefu, lauded the initiative and highlighted the crucial role it plays in shaping the ethical mindset of Nigeria's future leaders. The oath-taking ceremony for members of the club was conducted by Mr. Victor Onakbo Buru, Principal Superintendent, ICPC. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Hawa. Stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, do you know that constituency projects are actually your projects? Do you know that constituency projects are funded by the federal government? Do you know that you can track release of constituency project funds for projects located in your constituency and follow up to know how they have been executed? Constituency projects happen because government does not want to leave any community out in development efforts. You have a responsibility to know what constituency project has been planned for your community, how much has been allocated for it, and whether value for money has been delivered. Take ownership of constituency projects located in your community. Protect them because they belong to you. Government knows about your needs and is planning for you. Government needs your help to ensure quality delivery. Know that constituency projects are actually your projects. Protect your constituency project. My constituency, my project.
For information on funds allocated to projects in your constituency, call 0800 2255 4272.
This message is from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the National Orientation Agency.
If you are just joining us, this is Corruption Must Go. The issue of fake credentials is quite worrisome, as some people have somehow used them to secure jobs with the government, even ending up in positions of great responsibility, which has led to a downturn in quality service delivery in some of the offices. The question then is this trend a recent development? And how is it affecting the state of the nation? We spoke with some Nigerians who shared their views on the matter with us.
Certificate forgery is when individuals, especially in public offices or certain positions, fake certificates or prove or show that they are qualified from a certain place when they are not qualified. Maybe a school, maybe a qualification or something. That's what certificate forgery is. I think it affects Nigeria in a way that there are so many incompetent people in office who are not qualified, who just faked themselves to be there, who presented certificates that are not real, certificates that are not original and authentic. They just are in office when they are not qualified for certain things.
Certificate forgery, I believe, is falsification and fabricating of documents for it to become authentic. Well, it makes people that are unqualified to sit in positions where they are not supposed to be. So I believe certificate forgery has become a very diverse situation in this country, so we have to tackle that.
Well, certificate forgery entails criminal falsification of documents to attest to the fact that, one earns a particular certificate from an institution or somewhere to qualify them for a particular responsibility or an office. It affects Nigeria in so many ways. Certificate forgery allows people who are not qualified to be in certain positions.
Certificate forgery is the illegal or falsification of documents to suit someone that is not his or her home. People forge certificates through the use of illegal means by using in letterhead paper from the place that they want it. It can even be as from the signature of the person or the stamp or seal from where they have not labored for to get it.
Well, certificate forgery has to do with the altering or fabricating of details on certificates just to make profit or to deceive people actually. There are instances where people buy certificates, they pay people just to create those certificates for them. There are also instances where they use the certificates of their dead relatives who are not serving, and there are also instances where they steal certificates from people who happen to bear the same name as them. It looks valid, but it's not. In the education sector, it has, a very large effect. When young people see that, okay, there are easy ways to actually get the certificates, it dissuades them from, getting quality education. And also, in the long term, it affects the education sector economy.
Certificate forgery, it means faking a document saying you're qualified for something which you actually are not qualified for. One of the effects I can think of is when it comes to delivery at work, you will not be able to deliver properly because you are not what you actually say you are.
Okay, to my understanding, certificate forgery is maybe, for instance, somebody is not qualified and he finds ways or methods to get certification in a certain, maybe a course or an exam, but he's not qualified for it. That's what I think it is. One of the biggest challenges for me is that people are employing, other people based on false credentials. So for instance, if there's an opening in an organization for 3 people and they are supposed to have a certain level of certification, now because this person has stayed at home for a while and is very desperate, he goes to go and pay and then he gets this certificate and he's employed. Meanwhile, he's not qualified to do the job. Vis-a-vis, the job suffers for it, and I think that has a cascading effect on the whole economic situation of the country, because people are doing jobs that they are not qualified for.
To curtail this worrying trend and enhance productivity in public service, ICPC has arraigned some culprits in different courts, as well as secured multiple convictions against other persons prosecuted over possessions of fake credentials. For instance, a former director of works at the Federal Polytechnic of Kwara State, Ilya Philemon Hassan, was sentenced to 9 months in jail by a state high court in Ilorin, Kwara State, for using forged certificates to gain employment. Hassan's journey to the correctional home was confirmed by the court when the commission proved beyond reasonable doubt that a master's degree in building construction technology from the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria he laid claim to was fake. Most recently, ICPC arraigned an officer of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Anthony Damisa of Niger State Command, before Honorable Justice M.E. Aneni of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Maitama, Abuja, for using a forged BSc certificate in public administration from the Enugu State University of Science and Technology, ESUT, as well as a forged National Diploma Certificate in General Agriculture from the College of Agriculture, Yandif, Benue State, to seek for higher placement in the Corps. In the same vein, ICPC dragged an officer of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Achigili Raf Ogili, before Honorable Justice J.E. Obanor of the FCT High Court 29, sitting in Jabi, for using a forged University of Abuja certificate to seek for upgrade in the Corps. The interesting thing about this case is that Achigili was not arraigned alone. He was arraigned alongside 2 others. ICPC prosecutors ABA Oglafa and Dorothy Suleiman tell us more about these cases.
Okay, so the matter came up by a petition written to ICPC from the NSCDC, wanting to verify the documents of some persons, of some of their staff. Now this case in question has to do with a senior staff that was seeking proper placement. So in the course of verification, it was found out, during the investigation, it was found out that he had forged some of these certificates. So we are charging him for using as genuine those documents to get proper or higher placement at the NSCDC. Mind is already a senior staff of the Corps. That is under Section 366 of the Penal Code and punishable under Section 364 of the Penal Code. I would like to say to Nigerians to desist from using fake documents. Already it's an offense, it's prohibited by the law. So as much as possible, Nigerians should not delve into that line of practice. Just not everybody has to work, by certificate. Just do something legitimate and earn an honest living. You don't have to contravene the law to get proper places. It's even like defrauding the government, because the government is, being deceived by the fact that they've employed people thinking that they are working, not knowing that these people are not even qualified for the position they've given to them.
The defendants are being prosecuted for an offense of forgery and being in possession of forged documents. For the first defendant, who is the civil servant, a public servant, he was alleged to have forged a certificate belonging to University of Abuja. He forged also his statement of result, and he tendered it before his office for upgrade. Then the second defendant was arraigned in court alongside the first defendant because he was the accessory. He was the one that connected the first defendant and the third defendant. So money was paid to the third defendant through the second defendant. Then the third defendant was the artisan who was arrested alongside his tools. Some of the seal that he used to produce the certificate, the discs, and other things were recovered in the course of investigating him. So after investigation was concluded, they were arraigned before the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Jabi, and so far we have gone into hearing, and we have tendered some documents before the court. The first defendant was charged under Section 366 of the Penal Code Law, and 366 provides for using as genuine a forged document with intent to defraud or deceive. Then the second defendant was charged with conspiracy, Section 96 of the Penal Code Law. Then the third defendant was charged with Section 364, that is forgery. And both 366 and 364 has a punishment of 14 years on conviction. The punishment section is 368. The issue of certificate forgery has affected the systems and structures of this country adversely. We have our educational sector, our health sector, our engineering sector, power sector, all the sectors have been affected adversely with the issue of certificate forgery. Most importantly, I want Nigerians to know that it is an offense and it carries a 14-year jail term upon conviction. So I advise Nigerians to desist from certificate forgery or forgery of documents in general, because it's not only about certificate. Document forgery, receipts, checks, anything that you know that there is somebody in authority that is meant to sign it and he is not the person that signed it. Please desist from using such documents because it is detrimental to our system.
In all the cases reviewed by our lawyers, ICPC shares the same opinion with the judge that the prosecution of offenders of corrupt acts would reduce corruption in public service, even as the Commission believes strongly that a strict vetting of workers by ministries, departments, and agencies of government would prevent those with fake certificates from hiding in the system. That's our package in this week's edition. You can watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. See you again next week. I am Hawasani Garba saying bye for now.